What is good, you guys? It is Lifestyle from LifestyleDidIt.com. In today's video, I'm going to be speaking about the most important thing when mixing your beats. This is by far the most important thing when mixing anything, but a lot of us producers mix and master our own beats to upload, and I don't know how many people know this for sure, so I'm not going to say that you guys don't know this. It might be something basic for some of you guys, and some of you guys may not have ever thought about it, and this will literally take your beat mixes from 0 to 100 if you implement it. It's one of the first things you're taught as an engineer, whether you run live sound or you are mixing things in the studio. If you're a mix engineer, recording engineer, it doesn't matter. It applies to both, and this is called gain staging. This is literally the most important thing ever when mixing. You might have heard of this once before. You might have seen a video or two on it, but this is something you really need to know and you really need to understand. Whether you're recording something, you need to be gain staging the levels before it goes in to be recorded, or you're mixing after the fact and you're using plugins. You need to know what gain staging is and how to use it so you're not messing up your mix and you're not sending levels in too hot to certain plugins. So we're going to go over all of that today and make it real easy. Let's get started. All right, so recently I've been dropping a lot of tutorials on mixing, and I'm going to be diving into mixing more because this is my background. It's mixing and engineering. I started off engineering and mixing in studios and doing live sound for big theater performances. So I have a lot of background knowledge and experience, and so many people have helped me out through the way when I first started to learn exactly how to mix and what gain staging is and what phases and how to run a live mixing board and so many things. So I want to start sharing a lot of this with you guys. So we're going to start off today's video with gain staging. So NFL, the first source of gain staging is right here in the channel rack. Okay, so gain staging is your gain, your volume that you're sending from point A to point B to point C, right? So your initial source of volume is going to be coming from right here, because if we drag a drum in, this clap, our first initial source of gain is going to be this knob right here. Okay, you have different gain knobs in here, but if you were to just go straight from right here into the mixer, this is your first source of gain. So this gain would feed into here, right? But if we stick a plugin on, our gain staging is going from right here to the plugin, and then this mixer knob is the last part of the gain staging. So if we were to send this clap into this EQ really loud and really hot, meaning it's clipping, and then turn it down here, we're still clipping in this EQ. So this is where gain staging becomes important. So I'm going to show you guys for an example. If I were to take these drums and solo them, okay, so we have this plug-in, right? Now let's say we had another EQ before it and we're turning up all this high end and we had this going crazy and this like this. You see it's telling us we're clipping, and you can even see in FL that we're clipping, right? But we're clipping in every plugin, and you're not paying attention to what you're doing, and you're going to make certain plugins clip, and then you go over here and now you add a soft clipper and you add all this, and the next thing you know, it's not sounding good because you're clipping into certain plugins. So if we take all these off and we just start from the basics, I'm going to show you guys exactly what I mean by gain staging correctly. Okay, so we have this drum pattern going, right? So the first thing we want to do is make sure we give ourselves headroom, which is how much room you have, negative dB you have before 0. So right here you see we have about -3 to -4 dB of headroom, right? So if we wanted this to be the loudest thing in the mix and we're starting with this, we're going to take this first knob that we get for volume in FL Studio and start to level this and give ourselves some headroom. Maybe like, you know, -8, -10, somewhere around there, right? So we have some nice headroom to mess with. So we know that this is the first level we set, around -10 dB, okay? So let's say we're going to go add an EQ to this and we want to boost some high end, right? So we go over here and we just boost up some high end, and we boost up like a little bit down here to get the snare more punchy. We're no longer around -10. So if we add 5 more plugins without paying attention, the next thing you know, we're going to be clipping. So this is where gain staging is important. So as you can see over here, we boosted about 4 dB of high end, and over here we boosted about 4 dB of this lower mid range, right? So what this knob is right here is like the most underrated knob on the FOEQ, and this is your output. So this is going to be to raise it or to lower. If we lower this down, you see it's lowering the volume of it, right? Not too many people even utilize this. So in most plugins, you're going to see an out knob. On FL Studio in the EQ, this is the out knob for the EQ. So like I said, if we turn it off, you're going to see we're around -10, right? -10, -9.5. But when we turn it on, we're way up here. we need to go back to that same level, because what we're doing now is adding volume. It's going to mess up what you think sounds good, because everything that is louder sounds better. So what we're initially doing here is trying to get more high end and a little bit more thud, but we're not trying to increase volume. So right here we went up maybe about 2 to 3 dB from where we were. So we're going to take this output knob and we're going to bring it down until we're peaking around the same volume that we're peaking when it's off. So now you see we're back around -10. We'll turn it up a tiny bit because we're in between 10 and 0.5, okay? So now, if I turn this off and turn it on, we should be around the same volume, but we're getting the effect of the EQ boosting high end and boosting that low mid range. So before, check out our levels. And then after, still around the same spot. But now we're getting what we wanted, more high end and more thud. So if I play it again, before, after. So let's say we boosted this even more or something. We were going crazy with it, right? As long as your level, when you turn it on and off, is the same, you are gain staging correctly, because we're still at the same volume. So if we were to put a compressor on here, right? Let's say we put a bus compressor on here, and we went in here and we just kind of set this up. And let me just get like a little, get some settings going. Okay, let's say we did a little bit of compression on it. Okay, about 2 dB. And we turn this makeup gain to 0. You'll see we lost a little volume, right? So we're just going to turn this up to where it stays the same. So we did about maybe 1 to 2 dB of gain reduction. So we're going to bring that back. If I turn both of these off, same level, around -10, -9.5. Sometimes it's going to go a little bit higher, a little bit lower, because you are messing with transients with the compressor, and the snare isn't exactly, it's not all limited to 1. You have a little bit of space, okay? But if you're in the same dB range, you're fine. So if it's about -10 to -9.5 and you still see that, you're fine. So with it off, you see -10, -9.5. We're in this range, right? Turn both of these on. Completely different sounding drum, but it's still the same volume. So one more time. Okay, and let's go again. More punchy, more high end. Now, let's say we didn't do everything we just did. So we went over here and we keep this like this, and this was up here, and now we listen to our drum, and we go before and after. Okay, we're at -10, and then we turn them on. Now we're all the way at -5, and we didn't even pay attention that we just gained all of that. And you're doing this with all of your drums, and the next thing you know, you're clipping, and then you put a limiter on because you think it can make it louder, but you're already clipping into the limiter because you didn't pay attention. So you can't just take this and turn down this knob right here, okay? And the reason you can't do that is because this is after the plugins on FL. So this is your first source of volume, and then it feeds into this plugin chain, whatever you put here, and this is after. So if you just go over here and turn this down, you're still going to be clipping into the plugins if you're going in too hot. So like I said, first source, plugins next. If you don't have plugins, then yeah, you're just running it straight into here, and then you can mess with this if you want to alter it, as long as you initially had some headroom. But you see what I'm saying? Now if we turn these on and off, we can't even tell if it sounds better because it's so loud already that it just automatically sounds better to us. So we're just like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And it could actually sound terrible. And this is like an issue because anything that we hear louder, we think it sounds better. So you're never really paying attention and training your ear. You're just hearing something louder and you're like, yeah, look, if I turn this off, bro, look how good it sounds. Well, yeah, it's going to sound good because you just boosted it by 4 dB. It's louder. We like louder stuff. So like I said, when we went here and we had our level set to a nice volume, and it was around the same level, when we turn it on and off, it does sound better, but it's still the same volume, okay? Now, one other thing I want to talk about is the master limiter, okay? So let's say we wanted to turn this up. Okay, so why do limiters have this link setting? So the reason that they have this link setting is the same thing that we used for gain staging earlier. They allow you to have this link setting so while you're pulling down the threshold of the beat and making it louder, you can link the output ceiling together so that you're not hearing an increased rate of volume, but you're actually hearing what the limiter is doing. So for example, if I press play and start to pull down this threshold, you hear it's getting louder, right? we can't really hear what is being limited and what's happening because it's getting louder. So we need to link these together somehow, and instead of going like this to -8 and going like this, they allow you to link them. So this is why you want to invest in a good limiter, because when you have a good limiter, it's usually going to have a link setting. So this is a Waves L1, okay? When it's linked, we're going to be able to pull it down together, hear what is happening with the actual compression and limiting of the track, and then we could hear if the kick disappears or the snare disappears. So I'm going to show you guys for an example. If I pull down them linked, we're going to hear it like this. Same volume, right? But watch me go all the way down here. We can hear that sounds bad. We can hear that kick and that snare disappearing. You wouldn't have been able to hear that if I had this all the way up here. It's going to be very loud because it's just too loud. We have no idea what's going on. So when they're linked together and you start to pull them down, we'll be able to actually listen to when the kick starts to get a little messy and the snare starts to get messy and know to back it off. And then we just bring up the output ceiling to a certain level that I'm going to show you guys, and boom, your track's loud and it's ready to go. So let's link it. Let's start to pull it down. And when we hear that kick start getting a little soft, we're going to back it off. And right over here, you'll see the compression we're doing. All right, it's starting to get soft a little bit, so let's back it off. And now since they're linked, we can do before and after at the same volume. So right now, you're not going to want to pay attention to this level because with limiting, we're obviously taking all these peaks off and smushing them. All we're doing is listening to what we're hearing with the limiter, because this is the final one. So with these two together, it's allowing us not to hear it louder, but at the same volume, and choose what sounds good. So to me, that sounds good before and after. I would actually go a little bit less. So while you're limiting, you are taking away punch and you are chopping off transients. So if you want it to get loud, you're going to have to lose a little bit of that punch. So you are going to hear a difference in your transient when you're limiting to bring up loudness. That happens. That's inevitable because you are compressing something to make it louder. You're getting rid of all this jump so it's just consistent and you raise the volume. So that's going to happen, but you don't want it to sound to where it's extremely soft. So this is a good setting for me. I could do before and after and hear it at the same level. So I know I like this setting. Now we're just going to go to the out ceiling and we're going to set it to -0.1, 2, or 3. You could choose. I do about -0.2. You don't want to do 0 because even though it's not going to clip, there's something called dithering, which I could do a video about, and that's where certain people that have studied audio believe that when you're encoding something to MP3 and it's doing dithering, that sometimes while it's encoding, it kind of bounces over and it's going to clip. So to be safe, they set it to 0.2 or 0.3. Some do 0.1. It's nothing different you're going to hear because it's not even half of a decibel. So we set our output ceiling to that and we press play, and now listen to how loud our beat is. Before, after. So that's how you get your track loud after you've done all your gain staging, because you're going to be sitting there like, okay, I did all my gain staging, I listen to what you say, but look how quiet my track is. How do I get it louder? Well, you add a limiter on. You do what I showed you to make sure that it's sounding good, and then you just bring up your out ceiling, and this is going to be the last plugin that you're going to have on your master channel to get your beats louder. So like I said, when you're using plugins, almost all of them are going to have some sort of output knob. So on this one, you guys probably haven't seen this plugin before. It's by Joey Sturgis, but here's the output. So we can raise it or we can lower it, okay? If we bring up any other plugin like the Fruity EQ1, you'll see right here you have an output setting for volume. So if we were to go boost all this high end, we can go right here and lower our volume until it's the same when we turn it on and off like I showed before. So I'm going to be covering more videos like this. I want to dive really into my engineering background and mixing background more. If you guys do enjoy these videos, let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, leave a thumbs up. You guys can follow me on all social medias at Lifestyle Did It. Make sure to hit my site lifestyledidit.com for everything else. Other than that, drop a comment down below, subscribe to your boy, push notifications. Thanks.